Hello, and welcome to the February 2021 MLFX update. I'm recording this actually a little bit later in the month. I did publish this article officially on the 9th. It didn't actually go live until today. So you'll see that it's published today on the 19th on the official website. Very exciting month for us, very exciting. As you can see in the title, our team has grown from 2 to 3. Maybe not a big milestone to some, but to us, it's pretty massive. It's an increase of 50%, obviously, and any extra assistance is really going to help this project immensely at this early stage. Not to say that we're struggling up to this point, but as the saying goes, many hands make light work. So we're not going to say no to another talented individual coming on board, and I'll talk a little bit about him, his skill set and what he's bringing to the team further on throughout the article. But for now, let's jump right into it. And for those of you who are returning viewers, thank you for your continued support of this project and continuing to, show interest as we do develop this. It is an ongoing thing, I know, and really we should have probably had something to market already. However, with the nature of software and the development of these cutting-edge technologies, it is expected that things are going to take a little bit longer than anticipated, especially since we are both optimists, Amory and I. There's always going to be that little bit of, overconfidence in our abilities to get things done on time. Needless to say, things are progressing, we're getting a lot done, and with another month under our belt, this is actually the 8th month that we've created these updates, which in itself is pretty exciting. And it's actually our 1-year anniversary since we started working on this project in February of 2020. So another milestone hit. More sort of eager than ever, and committed more than ever to the project as we push forward with it. Got a couple of book recommendations that I actually just jumped into the article here with. Was feeling quite motivated after reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a great book. I can highly recommend it. I've also read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which is a similar book, similar principles around forming habits that are going to create the lifestyle that you want, right? It's the small things that you do day in and day out that ultimately create the life that you live, and you can decide whether or not these small things are destructive or constructive, right? Building on good habits or tearing you down in the long run, and it could be negative health impacts or negative financial impacts by just overspending little bit by little bit, or the opposite, saving a little bit here, a little bit there, making a healthier decision one day and then following it up the next day with another healthier decision. So it's those kind of things that they talk about in the books, and talk about the compounding effects of habits over time. Something that I'm very I'm a believer in. I'm a believer in just showing up, right? Just doing the bare minimum even per day. Just do something and it will eventually compound. The good thing about just showing up is often you'll decide to do more, right, than the bare minimum. If you set the bar low, you're doing the hard bit, which is actually getting into the mode of, okay, I'm going to do some work today, right? Once you overcome that initial barrier, once you actually get started, whether it be writing, whether it be building a website, doing anything, right? You've done one task, you've ticked it off. It's a lot easier to do that second task. So by just actively showing up day in and day out, you're a lot more likely to do way more in the long run than doing sort of 3 or 4 days a week of moderate to intensive work on whatever you're trying to achieve. That little motivational intro bit out of the way, let's jump into the lightning round for February. So we did quite a lot this month. It's not one of our biggest months, but still a productive month. We started off by ignoring data points when creating agents. So previously, we were basically going through all of the creation data set and every single data point. So if we've got 200 data points, that's 200 hours worth of data. In the previous version, I'll talk a little bit about some changes that we've made towards that. But previously, that's how it was, right? 200 hours, 200 data points, 200 different combinations of agents, at least, right? That is the complete minimum. But in all likelihood, many more, because you can actually configure the inputs or the indicators that each agent is using slightly, right? So that in fact, instead of 200, there is on the factor of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of potential combinations within just a 200 data point data set. So lots of different options that we can test for there. The problem is with lots of options and with the added complexity that comes with more indicators, which is what we are trying to do. We're trying to add more indicators. We only have 5 at the moment that we're using, 4 in fact that we're using. 3 of those are variations of moving averages, the other one being an RSI, relative strength index. So we're adding things like MACD, things like oscillators and those types of things to sort of blend it up a little bit, maybe Fibonacci retracements, pivot points, etc. But with each indicator that we add complexity, and it goes up exponentially, right? It's not a linear progression or a linear growth in complexity. So with that comes more and more agents that we potentially need to test. So we're trying to get rid of tests that don't need to be there, right? If you're testing an agent or creating an agent that's trying to win $1 but risking $20 to win that $1, why are we even doing that? We shouldn't be doing that. So it's by removing redundancies and things that shouldn't be happening in the first place that we're trying to basically thin down the initial pool of considered agents so that theoretically we should stumble upon the better agents a lot sooner. The next was adding a risk-reward trade threshold. This is thinking along the same lines of what I was just talking about. So initially, we are only considering risk rewards of 1 to 3 in the creation process. So that means when it's perfectly matched, when the pattern that it is created for is found exactly in the live data, it has a risk reward of 1 to 3. So you're risking $1 and you're trying to get $3 back. Now, it is very rare that we actually get a perfect match in the markets because these agents are quite complex. You very rarely get the exact same thing happening over and over. Yes, you're going to have similar patterns, but they don't generally match to the T, right? We're looking at volume, we're looking at all these different other things that come into play here. So you're very rarely going to get that. Then what we need to do is we need to limit how small that risk reward can become when it becomes less activated. So if it's only activated 70%, so it's a 70% match, that pattern in the market, what happens is the reward is going to get smaller because it's a little bit uncertain, so it's not going to be going for the maximum return, and the stop loss is going to become a bit bigger because, as I said, it's a bit uncertain, and certainty means that you're probably going to have a smaller stop loss. So we expand the stop loss and reduce the take profit when it comes to a less certain agent or a less activated agent. So we've implemented a risk reward trade threshold of a minimum risk reward of 1 to 2 to actually take a trade. And that's during the training process. When it comes to the live process, is a bit of different stuff, but that's going to be covered in the next month's article because we did that a little bit later in March, and it's not really super important for this point in time. The next thing we did, we set a minimum number of trades. This is really just to avoid lucky agents getting in with a couple of trades that they've won in a row, and they're not really... we want to eliminate any aspect of luck in the system that we possibly can and make it as reliable as possible so the agents that are actually getting added to our agent pool will deserve to be there, basically. I won't talk much more about that. It's pretty simple. And we did start testing, before I talk about this point here, we did start testing agent consensus during the month as well. We believe this is probably one of the last genuine steps that we need to do in order to have a single signal system. Now, what do I mean by a single signal system? What I mean is when we're testing the market. So that means when we are calling Oanda or whatever our data provider is, and we're getting the rates for the Forex market, whether that be AUD, USD, JPY, whatever. we're getting the rates back, and we're looking at the patterns that are happening. We're then evaluating those patterns against all of our agents that we have to see which ones recognize what's going on, and they then decide whether or not to take a trade. So what we want to do eventually, the goal is to have the best agent create a signal. And that could happen every time that the market is tested, or that could happen on certain times the market is tested. So sometimes you might just get the agents flat out saying, no, it's not a good time to take a trade right now. But we can also have the same thing happen, except the agent will say, yes, I'm confident that I can win this trade and I can make a profit right now. So eventually what we want to do is we want that to happen where we are testing the market, it's getting back, and a good trade is being taken or no trade is being taken at all. And overall, it must be profitable. It must be profitable to the 0.15% per trade, right? Which is 15% per 100 trades on average you must make as a return on your investments. So that's the end goal. And to do that, we believe we're going to need some form of agent consensus where all of the agents that we have, the thousands of agents, are talking to each other and saying, okay, I might be really confident right now that it's a good time to buy, but all of my buddies over here are also pretty confident that it's a good time to sell. And if we are having these conflicting messages and there's no direct agreement that it's a good time to buy or sell, maybe we should not take a trade. On the flip side, if sort of 60% of the agents or 70% of the agents are saying it's a great time to sell, and then the other 30 to 40% are saying, well, it's an okay time to buy, or it's, I could buy right now, but I'm not very confident, then it might be a great time to sell, right? So it's just looking at ways that we can test different consensus methods like that, where we can hopefully create a more accurate system, right, that has a higher return on investment per trade, or average return per trade. And we tested these different methods. So the top N agents must all agree on one direction. N just means number, so you can replace that for any particular number. I think we were using the top 2 we tested up to about the top 10 or so. The top N agents must agree on a direction greater than 50% was also tested. The top N activation as a weight. So if the direction's bullish and 7 out of 10 of those 10 agents are bullish, we average their activation and we use that as a weight. So similar to what I was saying earlier about the agents being a little bit certain and uncertain, that comes down to activation. It's how much of the pattern they recognize within the market, and how well it matches, right? That can be looked at as their certainty. Then there was a global agent pool activation to determine the direction. So that's instead of just the top 20 agents, it would be every single agent that was had their activation summed together, right? And whichever was the dominant activation there, being selling or buying, would determine the direction of the trade. Finally, the top N bullish versus bearish activation. So similar to the previous point, but just with the top number. So we tested a whole bunch of different things. There's much more to test. I will talk about sort of another point that is similar to this, and it does factor in just a little bit further down in the article. But what you need to know for now is that we are still testing it, but it's not actively being pursued right now, because we've decided to release a product that will help us determine which way to go, but it will also help traders right now. So it'll be a product that people can use, including myself, right now to actively improve their trading. So I skimmed over it before, but 2's become 3. We've got a new addition to the MLFX family. His name is Christian. He's a friend of Armory's, and he is a front-end developer, which is almost the missing piece, the person that we needed, right, in the business. We have Armory, who is an expert in the back-end side of things, expert with creating complex software and doing really, really intricate sort of, mathematically intensive programming to do with machine learning. Christian also has a background in machine learning, which is another reason he's a great addition to the team. He's got a PhD in machine learning with a specialization in, I believe it was, what was it? Something to do with evolutionary programming. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I did write a little blurb for him the other day. But something to do with evolutionary based programming. So he's got that background, he understands it, and he now, in sort of the last 4 or so years, has had a focus on front-end development. He's found a passion in it. Also, with the job opportunities, there's many more in that field. So part of the decision, I believe, was based around that. But throughout the process, or whether or not it was through necessity or not, he has found that he's got a passion for front-end development and these newer technologies. So he's going to be helping us to build a dashboard using a Vue.js theme, and really his objective is to make everything a little bit more beautiful, make Armory's stuff functional. Armory does know front-end development, but he doesn't particularly enjoy it. His bread and butter is the back-end stuff, and he's only really done front-end out of necessity. Yes, he knows it. Yes, he's pretty good at it, but it's not where he can use his talents to the best of, the best of the company's interests. So really good to have him on board. Really looking forward to seeing what he can create for us. We've already picked out a theme. He's just going through the process of getting to know it, and then we're going to start building on that for our first, what we're calling beautiful or pretty release. But we will have an ugly release in the meantime, where we just launch something within the next month or two to get it up and running and start live testing the system and having other people come in and utilize it as well. The next thing we worked on was some performance improvements. So it started off with a bottleneck. The bottleneck was the get agents function, which you can see at the top here of this image, and it had a 0.051 blah 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 second per call. So that was the time it was taking for every time it was getting called, and it was getting called quite a lot, and definitely the thing that was taking the most time. As you can see, it's right at the top here with about 7.8 seconds for that 152 calls that it had. So after what seemed like only 10 minutes and me thinking it was going to be a couple of day job at least, Armory got back to me and sent me another screenshot, and the second screenshot shows the improvement. Didn't really look at it too much to begin with. I was just like, oh cool, that number's smaller than the first one, so there's some improvement. Then after coming back to the image and studying it a little bit better, I noticed that it was around about a 60 time improvement, 60 times faster than previous, and really outstanding, to be honest. But we didn't see any noticeable improvement immediately in how the system was performing, which was peculiar, because for something so drastic as a 60x improvement, you're gonna notice, right? You should be noticing some pretty significant performance improvements. And what I mean by performance is just the actual speed that the system runs at, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily perform 60 times better. It just means we're going to be able to iterate through 60 times more agents, so we should be able to find better solutions faster. Well, that's the idea, at least. However, as I said, we didn't see that improvement. And upon some further investigations, we actually found out that there was another bottleneck, which was in essence the true bottleneck, and we couldn't really do much to work past that. So that's unfortunate. Off the top of my head, I can't exactly remember what it was. Yeah, that's right. It was the optimization process. So the process of evaluating agents, storing the metrics, averaging those metrics, and evaluating the trades. So that was the thing that was slowing us down the most, and unfortunately it seems to be a pretty big bottleneck at the moment. We might be able to do some minor improvements. There's some ideas that are floating around, but the biggest improvement we can do to that is to separate it via multi-threading and create improve our server so we've got more CPUs, and then dedicate single CPU to each pairing so that we can run optimization in parallel and effectively improve the performance by 8x right immediately. So that would be the way to do it. We've actually already done multi-threading. It's not covered in this article, but we have completed that as of last week, which is really cool. The next thing in this article we quickly covered off here, and I haven't actually got the link here, but I'll show you at the end of this article, is the expansion plan. So it's just a website, just basic page on the website that I put together to be transparent. What we really like, me and Armory, about the building a business is just being transparent about how we're doing it. We don't want to hide anything. We've got nothing to hide, right? So the more that we can open up to people about what we do, obviously we're not going to be sharing our bank statements and going ridiculously over the top with things like that. But just our general thinking, like what we're pursuing, what we're planning on spending our money on when we get income. Because I think it's important as a customer that you know what the money's going towards, right? I hate websites that just have no transparency and don't tell people what they're planning on achieving. There's no accountability, right? And if you've got a Forex company or a Forex signal company, a lot of them are literally just taking that money and blowing it on whatever, right? They just want to live a lavish lifestyle, whereas we're actually trying to build a serious business here, and we want to be transparent about how we're going to go about doing that. So that's the purpose of this page. It will be updated fairly regularly. At the moment, we've got 5 steps, I think, that we're planning on doing. The first step, after $1,000 per month of revenue, would be to upgrade our servers so that we can do that multi-threading I was just talking about, where we can improve our performance. We can also, at that same stage, run multiple versions of the website, or of the algorithm rather, in parallel, so we can test multiple different theories, different configurations live in the markets together, and then we can improve or we can pick the one that works the best, and that can be the one that we show to the customers, right? So we can have, say, 5 instances of MLFX or Overmind running, and then at the end of the month we can see, oh, this one performed 20% better than the next best thing. So I think that should be our live version. Obviously we'll test a little bit more than 1 month, right? We want to see consistency, just in this example though. And we would take that one, then we would tie 4 different other combinations or configurations or theories on the other 4. They would get changed, and we'd test for another month. Then we'd review again and see which one's doing best, and continue that iterative process, right? What's known as A/B testing in sort of marketing and website development. We'll be doing that essentially with the algorithm. So that's what we'd be doing after the $1,000 mark, is upgrading the servers. We would be doing a few other things, but that would be the main big improvement that we would be able to do with that money. Now, on to the beta results up to this point in time. There's been no major improvement. Just gonna flat out come out and say that we are sort of struggling a little bit at the moment to improve the system, and it's not because we don't know what to do. It's just because what we know needs to be done is time consuming, and it's taking us a little while. So you can see on the chart down here that it has spent a little bit of time underneath that break-even line of 0% for the last fair few weeks. In fact, it'll probably be about 2 months there. And we're not going to make any excuses. In fact, I believe that some of this data here, in fact, before probably around about here, this data may misrepresent how good or bad the system was performing, because we did find a whole bunch of bugs, as stated in last month's article, and we did fix those. So the only results that I'm really trusting and interested in are probably these ones here from about this negative 2.6% onwards, because those are the most recent results, and those are the ones that I believe are the most accurate. That being said, and for anyone who doesn't know what this stands for, it is the average return per 100 trades, which means after 100 trades, if I have $100 in my account, what is my expected return on that $100? And at the moment, sort of negative 13%, negative 22. So pretty bad, right, at this point in time. We're aiming for, our goal is plus 15% as the sort of the standard, the benchmark, you could say, for after 100 trades, whatever my account balance, what am I expecting to have as my return? And that's because our system uses a risk-reward ratio as the premises, right? We're not going off pips or anything like that, right? You don't chase pips, okay? That's not how you make a profit in Forex. You want to be focusing on the risk-reward, and you want to be making sure that your trades always have a healthy risk-reward, and you want to be chasing the return on your account. You should always be looking to make a positive return, because you can make positive pips, but you can still be down on return. So it doesn't really make sense to chase pips. And I really don't understand why a lot of companies do have, we've made 2,000 pips this month, or you make 1,000 pips in a month, whatever is their slogans and the things that they're pushing right through their marketing. It doesn't make sense to me. Just for a little bit of a more in-depth, I guess, look at our results in February, you can scroll down and have a look at these numbers here. I'm not going to talk about them in this video. I don't really think we need to cover it. It's negative. We are getting better. We are figuring out the things that we need to do, but overall still negative, right? You can see negative 0.35, negative 0.178. So effectively just move the decimal 2 places to the right, and you'll get the negative per 100 trades, or how much return you're expected per 100 trades. So for this one, it'd be 13.8, 22.1, 17.8, and 3.5%, all in the negatives. So as I said, not the best. But the main thing is that we're improving, and we are looking to release a product very soon that will be better, right? These are only going based off of the top single trade, which is what I was talking about earlier. What we're actually going to be releasing as a product in a couple of months is what's called general signals, or general nested signals, where instead of just showing the top one or singular most activated agent, we're going to be showing you the top 10 most activated buying agents and selling agents. So in essence, it's up to you to determine whether or not you want to buy or sell in the market. Take a look at the charts. Is it a bullish market or a bearish market? What way is it trending? Which points are near in terms of your perceived support and resistance levels and things like that. Then make an informed decision based on where you're going to put, or based on these signals, as to where you're going to put your take profit and stop loss. After testing this for only a couple of days, it's been live, or the first initial version that we're testing at the moment, it's been live. I can honestly say that it's looking much better, and I would be much more confident using that than the single signal system live trading. I believe that I should be able to make a profit with it. So really excited to bring that to market, have something functional that people can use. And what we're going to be doing going forward is we're going to be focusing on improving the overall performance of those signals. So instead of just looking to improve a single signal, which is relying on that pattern being found and that agent knowing exactly what to do, which is less likely than there being a couple of agents within those 10 that should be able to make you a profit, right? There's always going to be a couple of agents within each of those 10 that are going to take the correct trade, and it's just about you actually looking at the market and determining what is realistic in those particular conditions. So really excited for that. We will post a lot more about that as it comes nearer to the release date, and we'll let you know exactly what needs to be done in terms of how you should use it, how we're going to use it, and we will be creating weekly roundup videos. In fact, I may even live trade with the system on YouTube and Twitch so that people can see I am in fact using it live. I'm not just going after the fact and picking out the best trades and saying that I took those, right? Some of the other things we're going to be working on is adding input functions. I alluded to this earlier, is we only have 4 inputs at the moment, or indicators, and we are going to be adding a group of different indicators, including MACD and different oscillators, leading and lagging indicators and the likes. We will also do, what it doesn't mention there, we will also add as inputs things like when the 50 EMA crosses the 200 SMA. That's an indicator to buy, right? If it crosses with the angling upwards, so the 50 EMA is crossing to the top side, then it's an indicator to buy. And different things like that, different configurations of 2 different indicators that are common amongst, I guess you could say, the trading world in terms of general consensus is that's a bullish indicator, right? Versus if it crosses to the downside, a bearish indicator. So those are pretty exciting, and it's going to be good to just have a bit more of a diverse group of indicators there. What we can also do on top of that, and is not mentioned here either, is we can add in different patterns, different candlestick patterns, which could be shooting stars, could be hammers, could be head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders, whatever, right? We can add all of those in, and the system can rate it on, in terms of activation, as to how well that pattern matches the actual thing, right? You can have a standard head and shoulders pattern, and then there can be some slight variance in how perfect it is, but it's still considered a head and shoulders. And different things like that are really exciting that we can add into the system. Also, as I said, we're implementing multi-threading, already done, already up and running and functioning perfectly, but we do need to upgrade our servers to maximize the usage of multi-threading. Next, we can plot trades, which needs to be done at some stage, and that's really just to get an overview. We want to be seeing all of the trades for the last 24 hours or 48 hours for the AUD USD, right, or whatever pairing that we're looking at, and we need to see how well it's fitting the trend. And in general, are the more activated agents trading in the correct direction? Because it doesn't matter so much if actually their take profit is being hit or their stop loss is being hit. It matters if the direction is correct, and we just need to wiggle those two to make it a successful trade, because that's a lot more easier than if the direction is most of the time wrong. The next is finishing setting up strike payments. It's an essential thing we need to do to progress towards having a functioning product, right? We need to take payments. Selecting the admin dashboard, we've already done that, and an MLFX API for Christian, so he can start making things pretty. One thing that's not on there that we have actually already done is switching to 15-minute data time frame. So instead of using 1 hour data, we're now using 15-minute data. Various different reasons as to why we're doing this. The major 2 being it's more data, right? It's going to provide us with more trades to look at. It's going to provide you, the customer, with more trading opportunities, as well as the consistency of now having multi-threading, where we can say every 15 minutes we test the market. So now what's happening is every 15 minutes there are new signals generated, and every 15 minutes it looks at the market, updates, and says now's a better time to buy or a worse time to buy. So it's more real time, and that means that people will be able to, there'll be a countdown saying, new signals in 5 minutes or whatever. When it hits 0, it resets to 15, counts down again. So you'll know when to come back and check the website for new signals. So all round, it's just a better experience for the customers, including us. because I don't want to be guessing as to when I need to see the system, look at the system and check the new signals. And it's an all-round better system in terms of developing, because it's going to give us more data to work with, and we can then process that data and look for patterns and things like that. That's us for this month. It was a bit of a long update, I know. I talked a lot. There's a lot to cover, and there's a lot more that we didn't even touch on. Now, as I said earlier in the article, there was the page that we created that I want to actually quickly show you guys before we end this video, and that's the expansion page. It's pretty basic, right? My design skills are not very good, so I'm just creating things that look okay and achieve the goal that we want. So as I said, we got the $1,000 hardware upgrade, which is the server. $2,500 per month. I can financially afford to move to Mexico, so I can meet up with Armory. We can start working on the business in person for 3 to 6 months. Now that Christian's there as well, he's in the same city, we can all get together, all three of us, and plan the future, right? What we're going to do. The idea after that is potentially to go scouting Bangalore in India. We've done quite a lot of gosh, there's some English for you. Quite a lot of research into different locations as to where we would like to expand, and Bangalore in India seems to be the best, or Pune, P-U-N-E, I'm not too sure how you say it, in India, which is not too far from Bangalore. Also a strong consideration. There's other cities in India that look pretty good as well, but in general, you can't really beat India in terms of the economics, right? The expenses and the quality talent that you're going to find there, especially on the development side of things, which is predominantly what we are, right? We're a software company. The next step would be hiring employees, obviously, if we decide to set up shop over in India. That's what we'd do. Then renting office space at $15K per month, and beyond that, world domination, taking everything over. No, there's plenty of things to do, plenty of stuff to improve, but really looking beyond $15K per month isn't a great idea, because we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, right? We think we're going to get there, but it doesn't require much thought right now, because there's more important things to focus on. It's not to say we haven't thought about it and the direction we want to go. We do have an idea. Teaser, which I've written down there as well, is that Forex is not going to be our only market, right? Our real product is the algorithm behind MLFX. So we can go into various different markets, including cryptocurrency, and we can also go into completely different markets, right? We can switch completely from sort of financial predictions into things like, biometrics, or into things like agriculture if we really wanted to. There's so much we can do with this algorithm. It's really the possibilities are limitless, and it just boils down to what industries interest us. We have interest within the blockchain industry as well as the bionics. Those are probably our two most exciting prospective markets that we want to work our way into. So that's a general idea as to where we want to go beyond here, but there is a long road ahead of us. There's a lot of things that need to be done. If you do want to follow us along on that journey, please do subscribe to the channel. Look at that segue, beautiful. And if you have enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Right, we're trying to get this in front of as many people as we possibly can. We do need these customers. We do need to start generating revenue so that we can continue to build this product. And every dollar will be spent wisely, as you can see in this page here, which will be updated to be more comprehensive. This is just version 1.0, and I will continue to work on it. Thanks again for watching the video, and I'll see you in next month's update, which is actually only going to be 10-15 days away, because I'm a bit slack this month. Oh no. I'll see you then.